the previous lesson, I gave you an introduction to getting MySQL set up, how to assign a password, and then we also took a look at a few commands such as describing a table or creating a table or showing the databases. So let's continue on, and I'm going to show you how to select some rows. But before we can do that, we need to insert some rows. So here I am at Show Databases. We're going to be using blog for this lesson. Now I'm going to show the tables, and we have one table called users, and if I select star from users, yep, there's nothing in there. And that's where we last left off. Okay, so let's move forward. The first thing we need to do is insert a row. But before we can do that, we need to have a basic understanding of how this row was created. If we run describe users, we see, yep, okay, we need a first name, a last name, and email address. Now you might be thinking we also need an ID, but don't forget, we don't have to worry about assigning the ID. Because it was set to auto increment and we set it as a primary key, that field will be assigned automatically. All right, so let's do this. We're going to insert a row. So I'm going to write insert into, that's the technical correct way, or if you're doing it very slowly, you can just do it in lowercase as well. So I'm going to insert into what table? Well, we're going to insert into the users table. Okay, so what are we inserting? Well, let's see if we can just insert a first name. So let's just do this. Insert into users values, and then I'm going to create a value for the first name, Jeffrey. So let's try to run that, and nope, we're going to get this error. The column count does not match the value count at row 1. And what it's saying here is, well, you're trying to insert a first name, but you don't have the last name, you don't have the email address. The column count doesn't match. So let's do it one more time. I'm going to bring back describe users just for your reference, and I will insert into users. And I'm going to show you two different ways. The first way is to pass in the values. Now, it's going to expect first name, last name, and email address. And as I noted, the ID will be set automatically. So we'll set the ID to null, the first name to Jeffrey. Notice that I'm just going in order. The last name is Wei, and the email address is Jeffrey@Lynda.com. So notice we're just going right down, but that gets hard to read. We just have null. What exactly is null? Jeffrey, that's probably the first name. What's the last name? But as you can imagine with other tables, that can be difficult to understand. Nonetheless, I'm going to run it, and we get query OK. If I now run select star from users, we get our first row. Now remember when I noted select star? Star refers to every column, but truthfully this can be a little bit intensive. Many times you only need to select a handful of things. So for example, what if I only need the email address? Well, in that case, it's unnecessary to run select star. Instead, I could select the column name that I need. So in this case, I could do select email address from users, and now what I'm going to get returned is just the list of email addresses. If we need more, maybe I want first name and last name. Notice that I just use a comma to separate those. And then one more time from users. Now we're getting those fields. Now let's go back to inserting another row. I've already shown you this way. If I hit up a few times, that's one way to do it. But now I want to show you a different way. Describe users, insert into users, but now I'm going to specify the column names. So because I know ID will automatically be set, we're just going to do it like this. First name, last name, email address. Next, I'll set the values. Remember, lowercase, or if you want to be proper, you can do uppercase. And then this time we will do John Doe, and his email address will be johndoe@doe.com. All right, now if I hit return, we get query OK, and we've done it again. So in the first case, we run insert into users, and we immediately skip to the values. However, you may find that you prefer this second option. Firstly, because we are declaring all of the columns that we're binding to, we don't have to insert null for items like the ID. Here we're saying we're going to insert these three columns, and then respectively, these three values. One more time, if I run select star from users, now we have 2 users in our database, and notice that those ID fields have automatically been set. So I'm going to clear the screen, and let's take a look at just a couple other ways that we can select this data. So we're going to select star from users, but maybe we want to order the results in a specific fashion. Maybe I want to order them by the last name. That way, in alphabetical order, we have the list of names. Well, we could do that. We could say select star from users, and we're going to order by, or online, again, you may see this, order by, and in this case, we'll order by last name in ascending order. So hit a semicolon, run that, and now notice that we have the 2 rows, and it is in ascending order because we have John Doe and then Jeffrey Way. And we can prove this because if we go back and we run it in descending order, now we get Way first and then Doe. So if you're working along, why don't you see if you can run this same command, but order it by the ID in descending order. If you can pause, try to do that on your own. Now we'll do it together. And in that case, we would do select star from users, order by ID, and we'll do it in descending order. Run it, and now we have 3, then 2, and if we were to do another one, insert into users, we'll do the shorthand here, values is going to be null, and we'll say Keith Doe, Keith at Lynda.com. Now we run that command one more time, and now notice that Keith comes on top, or if we do ascending order, that way we're going to start with ID 2, then move our way up. So notice how readable SQL or SQL can be. We're mostly just writing commands that anyone can understand. Select all the rows from the users table, and we're going to order them by ID, and we will order those in ascending order. Very readable. Now, what if we only want to take a couple? So maybe we only want to return 5. Now, in this case, we don't really have many rows. So let's say we want to return 2. Well, once again, I can do select star from users, limit, and that means essentially take. We're going to take 2 of them, or limit 2. And now notice that only the first 2 rows from the database are returned. And this can be very helpful if you think in terms of a blog. Well, imagine your blog has 1,000 posts. Well, clearly you don't want to query all of those posts because that's going to return 1,000 rows, and that can be very intensive. And in this case, of course, we don't have a post table. But wouldn't it be a better way to assume that each page of your blog will display maybe 8 blog postings? Well, in that case, you can save some time and do select star from posts, and we're going to limit 8. And then that way, when they want to view the next set of 8, you can adjust your SQL command accordingly. And that's a much cleaner and optimized way to take care of that. Okay, the last thing we're going to do today is discuss how we can delete rows. So select star from users. If I want to delete Keith, I can say delete from the users table where the ID equals what? In this case, it would be 4. But it doesn't have to be the ID. If we want to get rid of all people whose last name is Doe, maybe we don't like people whose last name ends with Doe. Well, in that case, you could say delete all the users from the table where their last name equals Doe. Now I run it. We get 2 rows affected because there are 2 users with the last name Doe. Now if I run select star from users again, now we just have that single row. So delete, again, is very readable. We're going to delete from a table, and what are the conditions? Well, the conditions are where the last name equals this value, or the last name has this specific ID, which is probably something you'll do more frequently. A user will view a blog post, you click the delete button, it'll get the ID of that blog posting, and then it'll run a SQL command, delete from the posts table where the ID equals this number, and that's how you delete the row. All right, so play around with these, try to memorize the syntax for performing select and delete commands, and I'll see you back here in the next lesson.